tech can play in alleviating human suffering and spurring development. Two of them are Oxfam and Nature Conservancy. They were initially opposed to GMOs, but in the light of overwhelming scientific confirmation of safety and efficacy, both Oxfam and Nature Conservancy have softened or ended their opposition to GMOs. Isn't it time that you open your mind to the realities that GMOs are not only not unsafe, they would be of benefit to so many millions of children who are dying of blindness? Where are you getting this information from that GMOs are unsafe? Many of you live in a panic about everything you put in your mouth. Let's go to the callers, 855-400-7282, when I come back. Many of you are diehard, fanatical environmentalists. Unfortunately, you're not making any scientific sense. What you're doing is espousing hysteria. You're espousing the hysteria of the leftists who claim that global warming will soon flood the earth because of melting ice caps. Don't be a naive fool here. Look into the evidence before you jump to the false conclusion.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Well, the call board is flooded with people who disagree with me on GMOs, which will make for a very robust conversation, which is good, because I allege that GMOs can save millions of lives, and it's the environmentalists who are doing real harm to the world's poor. And the best example is golden rice, a miracle grain that is enhanced with vitamin A-producing beta-carotene. It was developed 15 years ago, and it could be saving 500,000 children a year from blindness in the third world. But that doesn't stop the leftists in the environmental movement from putting out, I think, false information on the dangers of GMOs. They seem to be afraid of everything that man creates. Everything is a Frankenstein to them. And we can argue about it if you'd like. Let's begin with Luke on WABC. Luke, line 3, go ahead, please.
Hi, I'd like to talk about the glyphosate. That's really the main issue. It's not necessarily GMO. What the big issue is that we got too many pesticides in our plants, and it's killing off everything around us.
Okay, let's start with the basics. Do you know what a glyphosate is?
Not necessarily, but what I
all right, but you know it's bad. Another typical leftist incomplete information.
No.
Yeah. You're a good person, but you're ignorant. You don't even know what a glyphosate is, but it's already Frankenstein.
But from my understanding from listening to the Alex Jones show is that the glyphosate's also getting in our...
Well, fine. Well, maybe Alex Jones ought to get a basic education in chemistry. What is a glyphosate?
Sorry, say that again?
What is a glyphosate? You're alleging that it's dangerous. What is a glyphosate?
Glyphosate is a pesticide that basically makes plants unable to generate sugars by blocking the photosynthesis process in the plant.
Okay, when a glyphosate breaks down, what does a glyphosate break down into?
It's just determined by the United Nations to be toxic. And
No. I don't care about the United Nations. It's full of leftist fools who are trying to control our economy and everyone else's economy, just as they're doing with global warming. Are you a believer in the global warming lie as well?
I thought we were talking about GMOs here.
No, let me ask you where you're coming from. Are you believing in global warming as science?
Look, if you want to talk about GMOs, we'll talk about GMOs.
No. You're going to, sir, I need to know just where you're sitting. Do you believe that the evidence is in amongst all the world scientists that global warming is going to destroy the earth?
Look, you're putting words in my mouth.
Well, I'm asking you to answer the question. Let's make it simpler for you. How about carbon dioxide? Do you believe carbon dioxide is causing a meltdown of the glaciers?
No, I don't.
Well, but you're a supporter of the global warming hypothesis, aren't you?
No, we're not.
What do you mean, no, we're not? Who's we're?
Me and the people I affiliate with do not believe in global warming, but we do believe there's a pollution problem, and we also...
What do you mean the people you affiliate with? I'd like to know what that organization is. Maybe I should know who they are.
Me and my friends. We don't believe in global warming.
You and your friends don't believe, but do you have any science background? I mean, I'm trying to help you here.
No, but I do have a background in permaculture, which is agricultural sustainable living.
Okay, I'm not knocking that, but I think that you're wrong here, Because in order to discuss glycosates in any intelligent manner, you have to know what a glycosate is.
I understand, and I apologize for my lack.
No, we're two intelligent men. But I think sometimes just using a word scares people. And let's put it in a generic term, and you'll do more research on your own. If GMOs were so bad, why would Patrick Moore, one of the original founders of Greenpeace, have broken with Greenpeace and is now working to expose Greenpeace's actions in the developing world? Why has he joined with Golden Rice inventor Ingo Petrikas in calling for putting Greenpeace on trial for crimes against humanity? It's not that he's a faker. Maybe he's come to understand that some of these groups are not well-intentioned.
I understand that, but you also say yourself, follow the money.
Yeah, you could do that on both sides. Do you know that the anti-GMO movement has a war chest estimated to exceed $500 million a year to have kept Golden Rice off the global market? Where'd that money come from?
I don't know, but I personally am not a fan of the anti-GMO movement because they put too many things into one category, and then they make it seem as if everything that Monsanto is doing is
okay. So at least we're meeting ourselves, let's say, at a 70 percentile area here, which is at least you're open to information. If you look at what a glyphosate is, and glyphosates are being used as a pesticide, but they're not really that dangerous. They're unstable compounds. They're rapidly transformed into glycic, ulmic, and formic acids, or known as glyciates, ulmiates, and formiates, which then combine with oxygen in the blood and undergo combustion with the production of water and carbonic acid, which are not dangerous. So I don't understand why people have suddenly latched on to this idea that this pesticide is that deadly. It may be less deadly than some of the organophosphorus pesticides that are being used. I mean, let's be clear. I hate the use of organophosphorus pesticides. I know that they're carcinogenic. But the fact of the matter is, had pesticides not be used, we'd have massive starvation around the globe. Do you know that?
Yes, but
let me make another point about pesticides, which I've worked against my whole life. I try to avoid them in my own family's life. But I will tell you this. Because of the anti-pesticide movement in the 1960s and 70s, DDT was not used to spray swamps. You know that malaria had been largely eradicated around the world before that, right? This is well known, right?
Yes, yes.
And what happened when DDT was banned because of the hysteria about DDT? The Anopheles mosquito proliferated, and malaria saw a resurgence. We saw a resurgence of malaria around the world, and malaria became an epidemic again. So there are unintended consequences of wanting to do good, and the bigger picture may require the limited use of DDT and may require the limited use of glycosates, is what I'm saying. It's not an either or. It's not a zero-sum game here.
I understand that, but you need to look into permaculture, because permaculture has ways that you can actually prevent pests from eating all the plants up.
That's wonderful. It's beautiful. I'm totally into organic gardening, but on a massive scale for the world's billions of people, we're not there yet. The average poor person cannot afford organic food. The average poor person in the world is starving to death. They really don't care if GMOs were used, and they really don't know whether they're going to sleep with an empty belly because of it or not. So we have to look at starvation, not look at it from our elitist white point of view that we can afford organic food and everyone should be forced to eat it. Thank you for the call. 855-407-282. I don't think I've changed any minds here, but I'm trying to open up a dialogue. There's a lot of hysteria out there, and it's all stemming from the hysteria about GMOs. And I saw an article over the weekend in the New York Post entitled How Neil Young and Greenpeace Work to Starve the World's Poor by Owen Paterson. And Owen Paterson is a member of the British Parliament, and he believes that Neil Young is doing more harm to the poor than Monsanto. And he's writing a song about fascism and chemical giants walking arm in arm. I mean, the aging hippie songwriter is following the lead of activists who claim that GMOs are harmful to health, farmers, and the environment. I totally agree with the writer. It's tragically wrong. And I believe that in reality, GMOs can save millions of lives. And it's the environmental wackos who are doing real harm to the world, which is not to say that I don't seek out organic fruits and vegetables where possible, but I'm not a poor man. I can afford them. Which is not to say that I wouldn't prefer to eat range-fed beef, the little beef that I eat, although now lately as I get older, I don't know, I can't even look at a cow anymore without feeling sad for the cow, to be frank. I'm reaching a point where all life seems to be rather sacred to me. And so therefore it's not a cosmic statement that I'm making. It's a very personal statement. But the fact of the matter is the world population is not at the point where we can afford to feed everybody with organic produce or organically raised meat. It's something that you'd get in Whole Foods for the very touchy-feely white people who have nothing but money to spend on their perfect little selves. Positive that if they eat organically, they're going to think organically. And if they think organically, the world will be a better place. All racism, sexism, homophobia will go away if only they think correctly. Okay, that's very nice, but it's naive. And again, I know that many of you will argue with me about splicing foods together, not being the same as hybridizing plants. But let's go back to how nature has produced many of the fruits and vegetables that we eat. It was through natural selection, by the way, that some of these fruits and vegetables originated. But it was also by man's manipulation of these vegetables, as I try to show you, that we wound up with amazing produce such as corn. I was amazed when I was in college to learn that corn originally was found in Central America eons ago as a grass. I'm going to repeat it again. A grass with very small seeds up on the top. And the Indian farmers hybridized the grasses, and those with the larger grass seeds were hybridized with other grasses with large grass seeds. They were selected by man, not by nature. And eventually they kept making larger and larger grains in the grass. And we wound up eventually with corn. That's how the Native Americans gave us corn and gave the world one of the, I think, 6 of the grass staple foods on earth. Also in the 1960s, there was a great movie. I'll never forget it. It was called The Death of Grass. Does anyone remember that movie? It was shocking. And it shows Englishmen eating and drinking in a bar, and they're eating their kidney pies, and they're eating bread, and that shows people around the world eating their rice and wheat and rice products, everything made from grasses. And then the theme of the plot is that a virus comes along that attacks only grasses. And when I say grasses, I don't mean your lawn. 6 of the crops upon which the world relies for staple foods: rice, corn, wheat, rye, barley, and one other which I can't remember right now. I didn't prep any of this. There's no notes. I have no notes in front of me. I'm going strictly on memory. So 5 or 6 of the world's principal crops upon which most of the world lives are members of the Gramineae or grass family. And so this film was based upon the theory that if a virus came along that attacked only grasses, it would wipe out the world's primary food supplies. And then there was mass starvation, and then there was all sorts of revolution and murder, and it showed the people shooting each other for food. It was quite an alarming scenario, and it led me to look into the Gramineae and the grass family and all of that. It's all very interesting. And so let's come back now to GMOs. GMOs are not the Frankensteins that they have been made out to be. And I do understand where this came from. It's a kind of mass hysteria. That's my opinion. Let's take some of the calls right now, because I think all of the callers are disagreeing with me. Are there any callers who agree with me? I don't think so. Are there any scientists who agree with me? That's what I really like, rather than just callers. They're not bad people, but they've been misinformed, I think. It's part of the scare campaigns. WJR, Matt, you're a disagreeer on line 8. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I disagree with the comparison of GMOs with hybrids. You mentioned that in your last segment a little bit. It's an unfair comparison, because hybridization is something that can be done by man in nature. It's no different than selective breeding of livestock. But what Monsanto is doing, so these plants are glyphosate resistant, is something that has to be done in a lab. I would like to mention also, I'm a 4th-generation farmer, and I'm very conservative, and I reject global warming. But this GMO thing is something that needs to be seriously looked at. You also need to take a look at the revolving door between the USDA and the board on Monsanto, and follow the money, as someone else had said earlier. there's a lot of stuff going on here that needs.
But I